Okay, what's up guys? So this is going to be my Ryzeal Fiensmith deck profile. I got 18th place at Seattle Regional a couple weeks back. People have been joking that because I borrowed a couple cards, gotta shout them out, gotta do a couple things. There isn't really anything revolutionary in this deck list. However, I will say these are theories that for a series that I'm going to be creating now for me to try and get first place or at least top 4 at a regional, and I'm hoping to get more competitive in the game. So with all that, let's get into this. I'm gonna start off. So pretty basic stuff. The 3 ice, 3 X'd. And we did play 3 sword, and 1 node and 1 cross. And then the 3 bonfire as well. Pretty simple stuff here, guys. Not revolutionary. You just want to see engine. Some people say you can play 2 sword, or whoever would be crazy would say 2x. That is wrong. You do need to maximize on the names just because you need to be able to see them, because sometimes playing is better than seeing an extra copy of anything else. Also, X in itself can be a board breaker. Having an extender is never bad. And then sometimes I do like just like kind of using the bonfire to thin my deck if I already have that before I go for a cross draw or before I go for a Necroquip princess draw. I believe that that's really helpful. Let's continue. This is again very standard. 3 engraver, 1 lacrima, 1 lurry, 2 tracked, and 1 paradise. I would like to say thank you to Will Fam for letting me play with these. Getting back into the game, he pretty much said, hey, I'm not using this engine, so here you go. So big shout out to him for letting me use these. They were super helpful all weekend, and are going to be helpful with upcoming formats. Hopefully I can continue to play and continue to do well. Moving on. We have for non-engine now, pretty simple on theory there. That is, I believe it's about 20 engine and then about 21 non-engine. Pretty simple on the hand traps. We have 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Nibiru, and 3 Imperm here. Those are very simple for hand traps, and then I guess these I also consider hand traps. And then the extra non-engine spots that I was playing for hand traps as well, but they are just very specific going second hand traps. 3 Fulos. And then shout out to like June for letting me play with the Perulias. These are what were Perulias. So shout out to him for letting me use those for the tournament. That was really helpful. I do really like, the only thing I could say that's like a bit different is would be playing 3 Fua and then 2 Perulia. I think that for when the weekend was happening, I think that 2 Perulia through 3 Fula was very much correct, because a lot of people were on Macharmies, and sometimes when you do get Macharmied, you have to look at your hand and go, is this enough non-engine to stop them? And sometimes having a Perulia and just dropping it in their like draw phase, I had 3 games where that happened, where they Perulia'd me or Fua'd me. And they Fua'd me in just the worst spot where I still had a name on, like I had Requiem, or I had gone Ice and, or not Ice, I remember they went, I went Lacrima, or so not Lacrima, Tracked to Lurry, Summon out Lurry. They went Fua there, which is just objectively wrong, because then I went into Requiem, and then I tributed my Requiem in their main phase and chained Fulos to it. which was just a draw for me and a turn skip for them. And also just dumping up enough engine to keep going for next turn. And depending on where they were at, I just simply sent in one instance, I just sent a Paradise to be safe. But yeah, I found that was like very much correct, because Mermail was very common. And then honestly, I found all of these were very helpful against the Malice matchup. For decks that I played against, I believe I played against one Memento, one Ryzeal Pure. Those were my losses. Memento via this deck is just a really good matchup for Memento. And then I'd say for the Pure, that was just a very good player. These both Memento and the Pure, they both got 7th and 8th. I think I just misplayed on that one, but that's the part about getting better in this game, is just learning from your mistakes. But then we played the very simple lineup of two Detonator, one Duo, one Eclipse Twins, and one Aggregator. And then one Dweller. That's very standard. I opted to not go for the second Eclipse Twins. The reason being is I find in the situations where I might want a second Eclipse Twins, they are bestealing my Eclipse Twins because it's usually it's game 2, I find, and they've bestealed there. Like, that's the most common situation where I would need it. And it just didn't come up enough that I was like, oh, I've not used my resources correctly. Because I try not to commit too much into a board when I first make it, and then knowing that Metal Tronus was being mained and a lot of things. So I'd like to set up a thing for next turn to be able to start with X'd or possibly normal summon Ice and then do that and keep that I would have enough hand traps. And then let's see, I played for the Fiensmith engine, very simple, very basic. Very rarely do I go into these actually. However, I would say that there's a point of like, if you're playing against good players, if you get to the point where you make this and Engraver on the field and you're threatening a Wave King, the idea there that's you're checking for nib. I did have a couple times where my opponent was like, they summon this and that, and then they're like, anything on summon. I'm like, nope, you're all good. And then they summon this, and they try to go into the Desiree line just because they were getting more greedy, and they just got punished so hard for a nib there. Because the thing is, I had imperm nib, so I was pretty much ready for them on that, and then I just waited for them to just waste their resources and commit so much to the board, and I didn't even have to waste my imperm at that point, which was super helpful. And then for these things I put aside, the Wave King. The only other thing that I did that was slightly different is I did still play Exton. This came up so many times against Blue Eye players. This is become no longer just a thing for me to go into. Often if I'm going second against the Blue Eyes board, if I get 2 monsters on the field, usually they're waiting for me to make like Detonator, or they're waiting for something at that point to try and they don't, for some reason, they're not as, I will push through their resources to the point that I get to that, and I go, okay, I haven't normal summoned yet. I can, like, I've normal summoned, but I haven't locked myself into XYZs yet. I'm going to make this and then make a, like, do the effect, and then they're just not ready for it. Like, they are so often not ready for it. A lot of people are not shotgunning the Blue Eyes Synchro to get into the Omni Negate on field, and it's just wild. It's absolutely wild. And if it's not me trading their Blue Eyes Negate for this, like, because often when I'm setting up the board, they're waiting for me to go into the Fiensmith line so they can at least get value from negating something from the grave. But the thing is this is going to be even better, because I'm blowing up their whole board. And then they're just top decking. So I think that was like really good this event. I did that at least like 5 times. And then Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel, pretty simple to explain it on its own. Not really much else. Again, thank you to Will for letting me borrow that. And then also I guess I could say thank you to June for letting me borrow one aggregator and one Agunde, because it did not come in the mail. Let's get into the side. So I played 3 Metaltronus in the side. I opted out of main decking this for the simple fact that I felt like going first, it wasn't as amazing when I would go against really anything. I would rather see any of my other cards, especially the Mulcharmies, because there were times, more times than I can count, that I normal summoned a Mulcharmy to get into duo drive. Like, more times than I can count. Because if you go for the Fiensmith line and you don't open any Ryzeals, and then you haven't normal summoned yet, you go for the whole, like, send out Lacrima there, and then you normal summon, and you go into duo drive at that point. I know it plays super hard into nib, but you honestly are checking for nib at that point, and if they nib you then, it's better than them nibbing you on a Caesar, or like when you were threatening Caesar, and then that way you still get to go into a better board where you can make Desiree, because you still haven't used Engraver yet, Engrave. So this I found was like not as helpful. I did play against 2 Malice and 2 Ryzeal Fiensmith, which these did come in helpful, but I find that they were helpful going second, not as much going first. And they were, even when going second, what they did was they dealt with an Ash Blossom. And I felt like I would rather trade, do a combo of this with Fua and that, like, it traded more. Yeah, moving forward, played Mixed Rarity Lancia. Shout out to Rhinex for forcing me to play with Gold Rare. I had the cards, he just said you had to, so shout out to him. And then 3 cross out, 1 called by. These were pretty good. I want to make sure I guarantee going first, and then also with cross out, if I was going first, I would make sure that I still had 1 Fua, 1 Perulia, because those were the ones that would hurt me the most. And I would side in 1 Talent and 1 Ultimate Slayer, and I'd also side in 1 Metaltronus. The reason being is I just wanted to have more copies for what would guarantee me the game. And I also liked this because there were a few times that my opponent started with Harpies or Lightning Storm, and I had already set Cross out, and they did tell me afterwards that because they started with Harpies, and then no matter how they started, and no matter how they sequenced this, they Harpied me, and I'm like, I know I need to call out Ultimate Slayer. So I would cross out Ultimate Slayer, and then they would tell me afterwards that they did in fact actually open Ultimate Slayer. Or depending on the situation, if it was like Talents would hurt me more in that situation. Depending on just like if I went the full combo and they didn't interrupt me, or if I was just sitting on a pure detonator with an Eclipse Twins, I would call the Ultimate Slayer. So yeah, that was almost about done the side there. Last part is really simple. It's the other talents. So I played 2 talents in total there. Yeah, played 2 talents. Those were really good. I found they were okay going first, okay going second. They were mostly for the hand knowledge. And if I was going first, I wanted to take something out for the Perulias and the Mulcharmies. And honestly, I wanted to cut down a little bit on the like Effect Veilers and Imperms if I was playing against Malice. Just because, and also just Imperm if I was going second, if I was going first, because a lot of people were playing playing hard on Harpies. So I just wanted to have something that, if it makes sense, when I get Lightning Stormed or Harpies, then I'm not gonna just lose a card. The only other things here that I played was 1 extra Perulia for when I was going second, and then 1 Cowboy. I did not go into time, but I wanted to at least have something for when I would. And no matter what I was doing going game 3, if I was going first, it was a really simple side pattern that I would take this out. If I was going first, there was no possible reason to be going into this. And if I was going second, there was no way whatsoever I was going into Wave King. Like, I'm not going into Wave King. So it did happen one time though, that I had just enough for lethal, but I was like only about 500 off. So I knew I had 2 level 4s, and rather than going into like a duo drive or anything else, and I was just 500 off, and I was like, okay, if I make in main phase 2 Cowboy and put in defense and then activate the effect, that would be enough damage for game. So I did do that once. That was very funny. Cowboying for game is always funny, no matter what you say. I do believe in just having something prepared for time. Anyway, guys, so that is my deck profile for this. I also want to give a shout out to Team Rob from Victoria and all the wonderful people out there. Miss y'all. It's been a great time. And I'll probably see you at the next regional. I'm going to hope to go ahead and take the win on that one, guys. That is the goal. So if you guys like this video, or if there's any suggestions you have, please let me know. I'm happy to hear about any suggestions or anything you take. Until next time, see you guys. Thanks, bye.